First on BBC One, Clive Mason introduces a special edition of See Here.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of See Here. BBC Television has invited the Royal National Institute for Deaf People to launch its new campaign, Louder Than Words, here at Television Centre. And it's all to do with this charter. A 10-point plan which aims to improve access to information for deaf and hard of hearing people. This is our report on the event. The studio is filling up with guests. Some from big companies will be pledging their support for the Charter today. Others are representing deaf organisations, and there are MPs and media people too.
Can you tell me why you're here today?
I'm here to lend full support to this campaign because I think it's very important that the needs of deaf people are properly recognised, particularly amongst government departments and agencies, to ensure that they take the message from this launch today back into their workplaces to make access to information far easier for deaf and hard of hearing people.
British Gas is here today because we endorse the Charter and the aims of the campaign, and we think it makes good business sense.
Well, I think it's very important that people in Britain realise the need for access to information for deaf people, such as police, courts, councils, government, etc., etc. And how are they going to get this access? They need interpreters invariably, and they have a right to language. We need that.
The RNID commissioned this video to show how deaf people are denied access to information in everyday life. A familiar story for See Here viewers. So while they're watching that, here's our report from a government agency which has already got the message and is trying to put the 10 charter points into action in all its regional offices. I went to Peterborough and met the award-winning team at the Passport Agency. Hello, I'm in the Passport Office waiting room, and like everyone else here, I've got to queue up until my number appears. Now, when I get there, it may well be possible that the staff won't understand me, so just in case, I've written down on a piece of paper that I need a new passport. Oh, here we go, it's my turn now.
Window 8, please. Window 8, and someone will help you, yes.
Hello.
Hello.
I can sign.
Yes, fantastic.
Oh, but I'm still learning, so if you can sign slowly, please.
Okay, we'll do. What stage are you at? What level?
Stage 2.
That's fantastic, marvellous.
Thank you.
Isn't that great? You can sign. Now, over there, when I told the staff that I needed my new passport, they advised me to come to this window where there's an induction loop for hard of hearing people, someone who can sign for BSL users, and the staff are aware of people who need to lip read too. Now, Annette Abbott is part of the reason why the Passport Office is committed to deaf awareness. And I'm now going to go behind the counter to find out more.
Okay.
About 5 years ago, I had some customers that were deaf that needed signing. I couldn't sign. That encouraged me to find lessons and start learning. At the same time, other offices had members of staff also learning signing independently. Since then, it's been grouped for the office now to pay and have more signers.
Well, I've been learning to sign now for about 18 months, along with Riz here. And the Passport Office are actually paying for both of us to learn.
So when a deaf, or even a profoundly deaf person comes to the counter, the officers will ring up and ask me or Michelle to come down and help with signing. The Louder Than Words Charter has 10 points. The Passport Agency has gone a long way to fulfilling those points nationally, partly through Annette's initiatives. So let's use the Peterborough Passport Office and its deaf customers to help explain the Charter. Number 1. First, you've got to recognise that deaf people have the same right to information as anyone else. And number 2, you have to make a commitment to do something about that right. That's the most important step before getting on with the practical points. So, number 3, install a text phone. Annette approached her managers and asked them to install a text phone in this office and in all the Passport Agency offices. They agreed, acknowledging that it would cost very little, but be a massive benefit to deaf and hard of hearing people. Number 4, induction loops.
Directs you to the correct window where you will be served.
I'd like to renew my passport, please.
Right, where is it you're wishing to travel?
To Canada.
To Canada, right. Well, this is the form you want, an application form A.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very
All
much.
right.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
My name is Yvonne St John. I live here in Peterborough. Today I'm at the Passport Office introducing the loop system. As for me, this is a great beneficial, as normally I'd have a guide helper to communicate to me doing the manual. But this is a great advantage for me because I'm now able to communicate on a one-to-one personal basis.
Number 5, deaf awareness training programs for staff.
Window 8, and someone will help you, yes.
Number 6, visual information about cues, for example.
My name is Marnie Knight, and I live in the Peterborough area. When I first came here, I thought, oh, it's lovely, fantastic. Plenty of visual information and numbers being shown so you know when it's your turn. That's helpful because after you arrive, you sit down. Now, hearing people can listen for their numbers being called out. But deaf people, of course, have to look around for theirs as they appear on small boards like the one behind me. It's nice, but I feel it would be much better if the numbers appeared above the windows and were bigger so that deaf people could see them much more easily.
Number 7, access to sign language interpreters.
There is no interpreting service here, but people are learning sign language. Some are at stage 1 and some at stage 2 level. We will continue learning and hopefully achieve stage 3.
Number 8. Provide a quiet environment for easy communication.
I think quiet rooms are very important, especially with the noise outside, like the distractions of the bleeps, children, other people chatting. It can be quite a distraction when you're trying to hear what someone is trying to explain to you.
Number 9. Good lighting and non-reflective glass to help lip reading.
Reflective glass is a problem because it's difficult to lip read through it. We didn't realise it was a problem, but now we're thinking about how to change and improve it.
The final point on the Charter, which is very important, is to provide support material on video. They are planning to have videos subtitled in future and hopefully signed to.
Now, this important campaign is to help Britain's 7.5 million deaf and hard of hearing people, and it's aimed to help them to break out of the suffocating cocoon of misunderstanding, and that is caused by lack of information. And in our increasingly complex society, information is absolutely vital, and those people who are deprived of information, and deaf and hard of hearing people are deprived, inevitably suffer discrimination and loss of opportunity. Now, the Institute aims to overcome this by raising the awareness of the problems of deaf and hard of hearing people. And once that awareness has been raised, then they want to follow that by persuading all kinds of organisations and decision makers and the general public to take constructive action, to actually do something about it, and try to communicate more clearly than they have done hitherto. I think this will be a great leap forward for deaf and hard of hearing people, because what it will mean is that they will not only enjoy life far more, it will also mean that they can make a bigger contribution to society, and that, I think, will be a wonderful thing. I'd now like to ask Will Wyatt to speak to you. Will.
Thank you. Thank you, Jack. I'm here today in a dual role. First as your host in this studio, and in that role I'd like to welcome you all here on behalf of BBC Television, and as an employer, I'm part of the target audience for this campaign. Now, when we examined ourselves against the louder than words Charter to make sure that we could endorse it with confidence, we found that we passed on most points, but there was one point on which we needed to take action. That was point 3, telephone provision. As you'd expect, within the BBC, there are a number of text phones already. See Here has them. So does From the Edge. And a small but growing number of programs now see the need. Important programs which interact with the public, Watchdog, Crime Watch, That's Life, now have Minicom numbers to ring. But there was a glaring omission. Our reception areas were not fitted with text phones, nor was our central telephone exchange, nor our duty office, which is where viewers ring to criticize, to comment, or to praise, yes, they do, our programs. We started to put this right, and the duty office has already been equipped. What's interesting is how easy it was to do this once the message had got through. It was a matter of buying the equipment and arranging some training, both achieved at modest cost. The important step was getting that message through to senior managers so that it's properly understood. The BBC is here to serve the whole audience and is accountable to the whole audience. The considerable work we've done on equal opportunities has been in response to and in dialogue with those who've brought issues and ideas to our attention. We've listened and tried to act as positively as we can. But I know that there is much more to do, and I'm grateful to the organizers of this campaign for drawing to my and everyone else's attention the needs of a very large number of people. I hope that the message will sink in.
We'll be publishing the BBC's new Minicom numbers soon in See Here magazine and on the programme, as each of them is going to have its own line. But for now, the BBC Information Office number is 081 576 8988, and the main exchange at Television Centre also has Minicom provision. But now it's back to the speakers. Next guest, Nicholas Scott, Government Minister for Disabled People.
Now, this campaign, I believe, directed as it is at a whole range of people in their target audience, ought to enable us to enhance the quality of information that comes to deaf and hard of hearing people in our society. In government, certainly, we are receiving the message loud and clear. The Human Aids Communication document, which was published not long ago, has now been distributed throughout government, and I've now written to the head of every department in government asking them what they are doing in response to the HAC report. All but one government department has responded to me. I'm not going to reveal which one that is, but they're under severe pressure to produce their reply in the very near future. And we are analysing those responses and seeing what gaps there are in the response of government in the provision of signing, of looping, of Minicom facilities, and the other items that were identified in the HAC report, and that RNID and the other organisations who promote the needs of deaf and hard of hearing people in our society are bringing to the fore. Certainly I am determined to see that government departments as a whole and the agencies which are increasingly a part of government in these days are fully aware of the needs of deaf and hard of hearing people, as well as other people who suffer from disabilities in our society. And we are determined too that our staff should be trained properly to be aware of the needs of people with disabilities of one sort or another. So I know that it's not in more...
With me is John Hay from Edinburgh in Scotland. Hello, John. Hello. There's been quite a turnout of some important people here today for the launch of this charter, but what do you think of it so far? Well, yes, a lot of important people, the RNID's people, of course, but others from trades unions, from industry, public companies, councils, and so on. I'm quite impressed with that. So there's a good chance that the charter giving access to deaf people will be accepted, certainly by them, and maybe they can go back to their regions and areas and workplaces and spread the word there. So what do you think the chances are for the charter? Well, the charter isn't a charter in the strictest sense of the meaning, as the Citizens' Charter is, because there are no penalties for people who fail to follow the charter. I would say really it's a set of guidelines, advisory only. Whether it'll be successful, I don't know. I'm sorry to say that it's probably about 10 years too late, because times are bad, there's a recession, There's an awful lot of redundancy around. Firms are having problems, and they have to prioritise what they do with their money. I mean, I know this isn't a lot. It doesn't take a great deal to improve access. John, thank you very much. And the final speaker is Doug Alker from the RNID. He's about to reinforce the strong evidence of the need for change collected by the RNID.
If you're unable to communicate, or you can't be communicated to, not only would you be at a disadvantage, but in some situations, your rights to full participation in society will be affected. With the rhetoric on Citizens' Charter and citizens' rights, which has been developing through various charters, it's a real situation for deaf people. It means that our citizenship is conditional. Citizenship for deaf people is conditional on having access to information. It's conditional on the access to information. It's conditional if we, or employers, or as the government, can or are willing to afford it. But why should citizenship for such a large segment of society be conditional? That's why we need a campaign that is louder than words.
Lord Ashley, President of the RNID, is now inviting people to come forward and pledge their support by signing the Charter.
John Hazelton, Chief Executive of the Passport Agency. Hello, John.
Hello.
Thank you very much, and that's the pen.
Where would you like me to sign? Here?
Thank you. Somehow it's uninhibited signature. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Smashing. Thank you very much.
Mr. Lyons, you've made a big thing about the Charter and customer services. What's in it for you?
Well, we want to give equality of service to all our customers, and this includes deaf people. This is why, of course, we set up Type Talk, which, as you know, is now helping about 5,000 people. And within 3 years, is probably going to be serving 20,000 profoundly deaf people in text. So there's a lot in it for us. They're customers like anybody else, and we want to provide them with excellent service.
Can you tell me why you think this Charter is important?
Well, firstly, we represent some 7 million men and women at the workplace, and they are in contact, daily contact, with many of their colleagues who have hearing impairment. So we have an important opportunity to make the case for the Charter, really bring it home at where it counts, on the face-to-face place at work.
Can you tell me what you actually got out of today?
I think the main thing has been to be involved with the campaign
and in the hope that people's awareness of what can be done to assist deaf and hard of hearing people has been heightened by this event and by the publicity that will hopefully surround it. However, I must say that I'm a little disappointed that more local authorities haven't been involved in today's event, as local authorities are such a major service provider, and as part of customer care activities, local authorities need to take into account the needs of deaf and hard of hearing people, which we are starting and making considerable efforts to do at Lancashire County Council.
What do you think today will achieve then?
Hopefully we'll achieve a lot for young people, because there's a bad need now for access and employment, and education has improved a lot over the last few years, but it's still very difficult for young people to get access to information. So I should think the campaign will do a lot to help young people.
How do you feel about today's event?
I think it was very positive. One thing I want all these companies to remember is that deaf and hard of hearing people are also customers. They buy cars, they buy clothes, and if they don't have access to all their information and adverts and so on, why should they buy anything? If these firms open themselves to deaf people and hard of hearing people, then they buy them. I think that's important. Well, we've come to the end of the launch, John. I'm just interested in your personal view of what's happened today in the Charter. Do you think it's going to be successful? Well, you mentioned the Charter as it is. I mean, really, it's just guidelines. It's got no legal status. People can please themselves as to whether they follow it or not, even though they've signed it, perhaps. And I think we really need to have an official code of practice or some sort of British standard which people are obliged to follow. Quality of services and so on. It needs to become a legal act which is enforceable. As in America, they have the anti-discrimination legislation. People have to follow that. This is a start, mind you, and hopefully that will influence people and make people aware of us deaf people. But on the other hand, it's just asking them to do something, not forcing them to. We shall continue to report on the campaign. Meanwhile, let us know your views and tell us of your experiences, good and bad, in gaining access to information. It's a sad fact that the rights of access, taken for granted by hearing people, should have to be campaigned for like this. Let's hope that equal access will become second nature to organisations who will recognise the value of giving all their customers equal rights.